Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Conversations with Coach Kevin. I'm your host, Kevin Thornton, the Wellness Architect. And today I have an amazing guest today. But before I get started introducing him, please like, subscribe, and share this video because the world needs to see what this great man is doing, what he's about, and he's going to inspire a lot of people. He is a he's a poet, and his name is Greg Delaney, but everybody calls him the Voice, Mr. Reality. So, welcome to the show, brother. How you doing today?
Man, I'm blessed. How are you?
I am doing great. So, for the world who doesn't know who you are, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Well, man, the better question be what don't I do? No, honestly, man, I am like you had mentioned, I am a poet. Um, I am a writer. I've done poetry for over 20 plus years. I've hosted poetry events. I'm a promoter of poetry. But more importantly, man, I'm a businessman. I'm a CEO of a couple of different businesses, and I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a soon-to-be husband, and I'm a grandpa. You know, a brother. So yeah, man. That's for the most part
Okay.
who I am.
How did you first start getting into poetry and writing?
Well, so I've always done poetry. I didn't consider it poetry. I used to write down my thoughts.
Mhm.
I am the younger sibling of just one of my immediate family, but my sister is 6 years older than me, and
Mhm.
I wasn't the cool kid, around the older sisters, so I didn't have a lot of people to talk to, man. So I used to write down my thoughts, um, especially when I felt like I couldn't get them out, and at some point, I would just continue to write. Of course, the thing we used to do back in middle school and high school, you would write a poem to the girl that you liked, and you was trying to be, the cool suave guy. Um,
Yeah.
but I grew up in the gangbang era, and I was kind of rough around the edges, man. But I still continued to write my thoughts down. And one time, one of my partners had seen something that I had sitting on the table while we was, he was waiting for me, and he was like, "Man, that's some dope poetry that you have right there." And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he was like, That's poetry." And I was like, "Is it?" And once he said it, and I kind of looked over, and I kind of started taking it serious because it was like, okay, this is somebody from the streets who was looking at this work, and other than judging it for what it wasn't, they was like, "You good at that." So kind of stood out to me.
So, for those who are interested in poetry and writing, what would you say is the thing you recommend they do to go to follow their passion or follow their vision?
To be honest, man, if you are interested in poetry and writing, 9 times out of 10 you already do it. It's not like you just wake up one day and you're like, "Oh, I want to be a poet." Most of the time people who are poets, very talented poets, still don't consider themselves poets because they've been writing for a long time and just consider what they do not poetry. um, but 9 times out of 10, if you writing your thoughts, if you're able to express yourself better through paper than you are verbally, then 9 times out of 10 you are a writer of some form, whether it be a short story writer, a poet. But a lot of people have the misconception that poetry rhymes and there has to be a cadence to it or something to that nature. But if you've ever had the interest to write, or you have written, 9 times out of 10 you are a poet. You may not consider yourself a good poet or one of the poetry community, but you 9 times out of 10 are a poet.
Okay. So you also say you are an entrepreneur, a businessman. What kind of business do you have?
So starting back from one of my oldest, I own a video production company, and
Okay.
what I do is that I create video productions for growing businesses in the minority community to help us market and advertise on a larger scale. I started this a long time ago, when actually advertising most likely was more important, um, because it was before they were able to create reels on your phone and actually create amazing commercials using AI or just using your phone. I literally would show up at a minority owned business and use cameras and lighting to shoot their
Mhm.
video and edit it and allow them to advertise it. But content is still king. So I literally still own a video production company where I allow businesses to create their vision and create marketing and advertising for them that they could use on social media platforms, websites, and things of that nature.
Okay.
Um, the second is I actually own a business network called the Colorado Commission. And if you ever noticed, the necklace on my neck is a symbolization of that. And the business network is all business communities that does business with integrity. We back those businesses. We send money that way. We keep money in the network of business owners who need the help and have high integrity, great business ethics. Um, and we continue to support those people in any community that does great business. It's kind of like a referral service for the businesses, and that's Colorado Commission. But most importantly, I created a mobile app a while back that originally started out as Custom Cuts, which was the first on demand Black business app for originally it was for beauty and hair industry,
Mhm.
and it expanded to a small, well, growing business mobile app to help establish and push your brand and create a on-demand service for your business, so a business tool, pretty much.
Okay.
By the
So
name of Gig Hair, by the way.
you a busy man.
Well, man, I was promised I was supposed to be somebody special, really, really wealthy, and I
Uh,
was supposed to change the culture of my family, and nobody ever told me how. He did. He told me I'll be blessed. He didn't tell me how.
mm, right.
So I figured I was going to do it all until I got it right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how I met you. So I
What's
met you on IG. We have a mutual acquaintance by the name of Gerard J.
correct?
And you was going to interview. He was going to be your first host, your first guest, I should say, on um your podcast on IG that you do a IG live.
Right.
And I said, well, let me go check it out because I knew Gerard was going to bring the fire with his transparency. And you were an excellent host. You asked the thought provoking questions, and I was like, so I responded to you like, no, this is a great show. And then instantly you hit me back, was like, would you be open to doing my show? And I was like, sure. Once we got past the the volume situation with my phone, I would tell you, brother, that that was all in divine order. It was something I needed that I
Mhm.
didn't think I needed. Um, I felt like you made me touch some things that I never thought I needed to touch anymore. When it came down to the situations regarding my my friend who died, the lady who died, and everything like that, and how that still was affecting me, and how you allowed me to, in that moment, allow myself to feel. And it's not that I didn't want to feel; you was going to make me feel that day because you knew that as a dude, as men, we always say we okay, but that's just us covering ourselves up, not having to deal with the emotions that we don't want to deal with. Because most men don't like to deal with emotions. And with me being the coach, I'm always looking out for everybody else. So this was like the first time someone, especially somebody I don't really know like that, took the time out to say, I see you and I know you're not okay. And I want you to be safe and expressing how you feel or just allow yourself to feel. So I really want to thank you, more importantly, because you using your platform for the greater good. You understand what you. I know you also been in mental health yourself, so you understand the need for mental health. or life coaching for us as Black men. And so, as a servant leader, you know that we tend to give all of ourselves to other people. We tend not to request anything for ourselves. So you saw that in me, and you made sure that I was okay, and I really want to appreciate that for you.
Well, look, man, it's a blessing and it's an honor for me. For one, that you even accepted to be on my platform, because what I wanted to do is I've always been a public speaker. I've always stood on stages. I command a room of 500. I could do that. When COVID hit, uh, I created the poetry online because everything was shut down. And
Hmm.
one of the things that happened, man, is that my poetry set that I was doing, which was called Deja Vu, was still on social media. It's called
Hmm.
Deja Vu. It became a safe space for people who was going through things, and keep in mind how scary COVID was. And when it was going through that process, this is the person I've always been. I've always been that kind to be like, okay, yeah, you good, you all right? Nah, wait a minute, are you really okay? Especially if I get that different energy. Because for one, brother, let's be honest, I know what it feels like to be hurting. I know what it feels like to be broken. I know what it feels like to be lost. I know what it feels like to feel great. I know what it feels like to be on top of the world. And when you recognize those things in other people and you see that conversation going, and I have somebody like you who I really don't know, and I'm talking to you, and you keep glazing over this conversation, and everything's great. I'm good. I'm great. I'm good. And I'm thinking to myself, like, how heavy does it have to be on the shoulders of the man who's intended to carry the world when nobody's helping your support? And that's where those conversations come from, because I know what it feels like. And during COVID, man, I did that. I had poets who was getting online, people who were getting online and really talking about killing themselves, and really, who knows if they were going to really do it or not. And my genuine compassion, for life, I was like, wait a minute, talk to me. And people started doing that. So for 2 years, we was on there. And it became a safe space that got recognized to the point that the city, Denver City Mental Health, reached out to me and wanted to fund my project and said, hey, we see what you're doing in the community, can you help us get the word out? Is there anything we could do to help you? Because it was really about pouring into people, and that's what a lot of people don't recognize about that mental health, is that it could be the strongest people that it could be the people who's helping you who are really hurting. But the whole point of mental health is really about listening sometimes, and then just asking the right questions. It ain't always about having the answers. It's about listening and asking the questions. So yeah, man, I got you. And you tried to play real cool on me for a minute, but the title of my podcast, and the name, it's not really a podcast, the conversation is Real Talk. And I want to really know how you feel. I want to know what we're really going through. So you,
Right.
you did allow that, and you opened up for me. So thank you for doing that, brother.
No problem. It was hard, uh, but it was something that I needed. And I could tell that I'm better, internally for myself, but also better as a coach because now I have relieved and released all that I've been dealing with. So now, I have more space to be able to give to other people because I've actually allowed myself to release some things within myself. So it's funny that, you just never know what God has planned for you. And so he used you as a vessel. As I'm a vessel that he uses to help other people, he said, I needed you to help me, to help myself. So I can continue doing, his work. So yeah, I'm very appreciative of that. So
Absolutely.
uh so what caused you or what made you want to start the show, uh Real Talk?
So honestly, man, I had been on stages for the last 20 some odd years. And when COVID hit, I went to the live. And moving to Houston from Denver, it was a big adjustment for me. Because I went from a space where everybody knew me, where I have created. Because in Denver, I was one of the largest, and still may be the largest, longest running poetry promoter in the city. Um,
Mhm.
and so I had that following, I had that foundation, I had that support, I had that backing. And then when COVID hit, the backing became international and national. Now I had people from New York Atlanta, who were following me because they had either known about me through the poetry community or what it was. But I created this online following that became amazing. And then when COVID kind of stopped and everybody kind of went back outside, I had started the business with the mobile app and came out to Houston, and getting into the poetry scene in Houston was just different than anything I had been used to. They don't know you out here. Houston's poetry scene is very um, commercial in a sense as compared to what the typical poetry community looks like. In the places I came from, like in Atlanta and those places, most people follow the poets because they are the inspiration. They're their voice. In places like Houston, a lot of the following follows the promoters of the poetry
Okay.
because it's a vacation spot, and it's where everybody's at, where you could be seen, where the most people are, and they're not really following the artist or the art as much. And it just wasn't, for me, it wasn't the stage that I was used to. And I stepped away from it for a while because I didn't come to Houston to do poetry. I came to Houston to do business.
Mm.
Um, but once the business kind of slowed up and trying to navigate the new terrain, um, what I realized, man, is that there were people who were still missing my voice. I was getting calls from, friends and associates and really people who I respected who were saying, "Hey, we miss hearing your voice, your logic, your conversation, you pouring into us, or you pouring into anyone, and that's just being able to watch. We miss that, and we need it. Don't sit on your gift." And it was like, you know what? I need to do something to get back out here to continue to use God's gift to be a blessing to others because it's really a blessing to me. And that was what I came up with because I didn't want to go back into the poetry. I didn't want to do an interview with all the famous people I know and all of that. I really wanted to talk to real people who are going through real life. And that was the option. Spoke to the wife about it. She said, "Yeah, that would be perfect. You're always pouring into people. What if other people seeing it? Let's do it." You know, and that's how
Yeah,
it.
and I think that was the perfect way to do it because you're getting people in their full transparency. Whether it was me, Gerard J, he was very transparent as well about his his situations with like um self esteem and all that type of stuff. And so, what I think is very needed is to allow to see men in their full transparency, in their full vulnerability, so people can actually see, what we are going through because we always try to carry the shield of armor and that we always okay. And so, if people actually see what we struggle with, they might be a little bit more sympathetic and empathetic about our journey. With us being so guarded, being so trying to be so strong, nobody actually know what we go through because we don't try to show it. And so,
Mhm.
and with you and your skills to be able to strip down our walls and be able to make us allow us to be vulnerable and feel safe, it you doing not us but also the world a great service because now the world can see what we as men, as black men, go through on a daily basis.
Well, and I appreciate that, brother. But I got to be honest with you. I've never been one to hold my emotions. I'm a man who's raised by women, and I'm a Taurus.
Hmm.
My thing is that I don't care how you feel about me, and if I feel this way, somebody needs to hear it. I'm very outspoken, and I grew up in the gang culture. I was, a, a thug most of my life in the mind frame. I was the guarded. I do the opposite of what women do because I didn't have a man figure in my life. So I thought that being a man was doing the opposite of what women did. If they cried, we don't cry. If they feel emotion, we don't feel emotion. And once I got comfortable in my skin, man, which was about 22. Actually, I've always been good with me, but once I really got set into who I was, man, I'm the kind of guy that's gonna cry with you and fight with you. I'm the kind of guy who was going to be open about how you made me feel, and then help you deal with the repercussions of it, even when I was, rough around the edges. So I've never been one to hold it in.
Right.
And so when I see it from my peers and from grown men, my goal is to make you feel comfortable in that space doing it because you know me and you know that I am 100% about who I am and how I stand. But then I'm
Right.
also okay with being vulnerable, and that's what it's really about, is showing people that the idea of what a man is, the conception of a man is pretty much, excuse my language, but it's bullshit.
Right.
Um, that's not what a man is. A man is somebody who could own how they feel in any situation, can be emotional but still be strong, can show emotion but still show firmness, can, be weak at moments, and and still be okay. Being not just a man, but being a comfortable individual, somebody who's okay in their skin. And that's what I'm going to be regardless. So when you're doing a conversation with me, when we're having that, I'm going to try to pull that out of you because it's a safe space, because we where we at. And I'm not going to think of you anything less or any different if you show me vulnerability, because now I see that as strength.
Right.
And, and I know it's like I'm talking a lot, but give me, on that show, The 8 Mile with Eminem, there was a part of that movie where he got ready to go into the rap battle, and they said, "Well,
Hmm.
what you gonna do? He's gonna kill you." And he said, "I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna tell him everything about me. I'm gonna put it all out there, because if I do that, then he won't have anything to do to surprise me." And that's the concept with life, man. If you're vulnerable with all of your weaknesses, then you're nobody could hurt you. You're not giving them the access to sneak attack or pull you. I'm giving you everything with me. So there's nothing for me to hide.
I like that analogy. So with that, I agree with everything you just said. But what do we do to try to change the thought processes of our community, where even some of the women feel like if we show any form of vulnerability or any tears, then we are less of a man. How do we change that thought paradigm or that narrative? Because I've heard it from women, like whether they're young or to our age range, they were like, if a man cry, if my dude cry, I got to find me a new dude
Mhm.
because I don't feel safe around him because you know he shouldn't be doing that. How do we change that narrative?
To be honest, man, I don't think we do change the narrative. I think that those people who feel that way already have their mind made up, and then obviously not the people to associate with. Because if you feel that someone's identity or masculinity is based upon how well they fake the game, then you have no idea what it really is, right? Because my thing is that trying to change someone's mind or debunk their thoughts on what their man or a man should look like is probably a lost cause to someone already. What I believe is normalize being exactly who you are wherever you at in that space. If that's being emotional today or strong tomorrow, normalize being human. Because anyone who expects you not to cry or to feel emotions or to do things like that, they probably was abused. Let's be
Mm,
honest. Their idea of masculinity probably has been forced upon them. Because if you ever knew a real man, you would know that a real man feels. And you know that your daddy may have ran the house, but your mama was the backbone.
right.
So I don't believe in trying to change their mind, man. I believe in living out loud. I believe in living by example. Be a masculine man who feels. Be a man with emotion who stands on his. Be a man who's open to say that, yeah, sometimes I'm emotional and sometimes I'm not. Neither way, I'm still a man. You know, um, and nobody defines what toxic masculinity is unless you a man. You know,
Exactly.
nobody defines what masculinity is unless you're a man. So be you.
Exactly. Now, one thing you said was, you grew up in a household full of women, but then you were out in the streets. So, do you think that when you went, you use the streets as a way to find that masculine love and energy that you were seeking that you didn't get in the household?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and that's what it was. I was looking for the brotherhood, the the fellowship of people like me, because I didn't see it. And it was a wrong approach, but it was my approach. um and definitely, yeah.
Because I want you to answer it before made my statement, because what I've noticed when I coach a lot of the men is that come from a single family household, just the mother or his mother and several sisters. Um, they are more in touch, they tune with their sensitive side than others, but they also they tend to look for love, that male energy love, from the wrong spots. So all the ones I've known were like you that go to the streets to find that love, whether they become go in the gang or they sell drugs. They find that OG that is going to pour it into them, that they or that brother figure that's going to pour into them that um, the father who wasn't there for them wasn't able to do. And but what it ended up coming to find out is as they continue to grow and evolve, they still miss that male figure because now as they evolve and grow, they understand a lot of stuff they were taught and were given in the streets was not the best thing for them. And so now they're still in the midst of seeking, that love and that knowledge from someone. Has that ever been that case for you or no?
No, and to be perfectly honest, brother, I hear you and I appreciate you, but I also want to add to that that there are brothers who were raised by women and we're looking for that the male influence and
Mhm.
found it in fraternities, you know,
That's true too.
found it in sports, found it in sports camaraderie. So it wasn't always just the gang community that they found it in. It was my era. That's what I grew up in. And that, for me, I grew up in the era where it was cool to be a gangbanger. So I wasn't looking for my fellowship. I wasn't looking for my brothers when I did that. I was trying to be cool. And it just so
Okay.
happened to be that that's where my brothers was, and that's where we started that fellowship. But also, um, you know, being raised by women, and I always jokingly say this, there's two things that's going to happen. Either you're going to turn out emotional or you're going to turn out homosexual, you know. And I was very emotional, never homosexual. So,
Right.
nothing against those who do, that's your choice. But for me, I was in touch with my emotions because I had women around me who expressed how they felt, and it became the norm for you to express how you feel.
Mhm.
But then also, you're taught to be expressive in your emotion, but you're also taught to be the protector because you're the only man around these women. So you got to protect this, and that's
Right.
kind of where it comes to. And then when you get out in the streets with your guys, or you get into the fraternity, or you get into the sports, you're the one who's saying, "Hey, it's okay to feel this way," and everybody's looking at you look a little different. But see, if you're the cool guy, if you're confident in who you are, then that became the people who gravitated around you, who felt comfortable sharing with you. And see, even when I was, in those streets, man, it was crazy. But I had the responsible gangbangers with me. We was the ones who definitely was going to get into stuff with you, but we weren't going to recklessly shoot up your mother's house. You know, we were moralist individuals with morals, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And that's kind of one of the things. But what I realized is that I didn't get the lessons on how to be a man from the streets. Um, I got the lessons on how not to be, and it's when you apply them, because then you realize you're watching these men who carry these flags, who are this, but then they end up there, or they turn out this, or they're not what you expected to be. It's paying attention to those flags. And the streets was more, if you were wise enough, the streets was more of a tutorial on what not to do than it was to do, which is why a lot of people, you know will tell you that, hey, I made it out, or I got out the way. The OGs are the ones who's like, yeah, nah, I got out the way. And then they the ones who speak to the kids now because they figured it out. But yeah, it was more of a tutorial on what not to do than what to do.
Okay. So what's next for you? Yeah, I know we spoke offline afterwards, and you say you had a lot of stuff going on that you would like to see happen for you this year and beyond. So what's next for you and your whole platform?
Man, I am going to get recognized nationally and internationally for my voice, my wisdom, my knowledge, my mindset, my gift, my God. I am going to get acknowledged. I am going to be placed in a position where I'm able to make a change. I am going to get funded for what I do in my words and my thoughts. I am going to get supported. I am going to get backing. I am going to get people like you who support what I do and continue to push me forward. I am going to be in a space where I'm able to make a decision and make a choice for my family and change that trajectory. I'm going to influence others. I am going to be an inspiration to others. I'm going to be one who has a testimony. I'm going to make it to radio. I'm going to make it to TV. I'm going to be him. And that's what I'm saying at 48 years old. I'm going to be this guy. That's what's next for me. Now, how it comes and when it comes, that's a whole different conversation, brother.
So for those who's gonna watch this and they heard how he spoke, he said, "I am going to," as if he already knows it's going to happen. So he's already putting it out there in the manifestation that this is what it's going to be for him. So you never hear somebody who's going to manifest anything saying, "I'm going to try anything." It's "I'm going to," as if as it's already done.
Mhm.
So you know, I want to use that as a teachable lesson because you spoke value because you spoke very clear and definite of what you're going to become in these next few years. And you know, you're speaking it out to the world for to manifest it. And all we gotta know is watch you do the work and watch as you do the work, everything's gonna come true. And if there's anything I could do along the journey, I'm gonna be there to help you out as much as I can as well. Because I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe anything like that. I believe that you were brought to me as part of my journey, so we could be helpful to each other, and we both are use our platforms to be vessels to help other people be their best version of themselves. And
Absolutely.
so, however I can do that for you, I'm going to do that for you, my brother.
Yes, sir. And I definitely appreciate it. And if you don't mind, man, speak my names in the rooms that I may not be able to enter. And if you see opportunities that can arise where we could build together, man, please throw it my way. I'm here for it.
Absolutely. I mean, Joe, you said that we spoke outside the interview, and I remember that, and so I've been put that in the spaces and places. So that when that time comes, it's gonna manifest itself because you know uh, we both have work to do as individuals, but also collaborative the same way. What would be a part? So, what would some words of wisdom or inspiration you want to give my audience?
Now I'm gonna give this to y'all. Take it how you want. Just give me credit in your mind if you say it again. Continue to do what you do. Nothing lasts forever, even failure. So keep in mind that eventually, if you continue to do what you do, you'll default into success because nothing lasts forever, even failure.
Excellent job, sir. So, how can everybody find you on social media if they want to keep on following you past this interview? How will they find you?
CO_reality on Instagram. Greg Delaney, because I don't have no warrants. Gregg Delaney, Delaney, on Facebook, and Google me. I'm Googleable, brother. You can actually Google me.
All right.
But yeah, no, please, any opportunity you have to follow me, send an inbox, send a message, whatever you may do, just know that we're here for it.
Okay. Now, do you have any books or anything out that they can try to purchase from you or anything like that?
Man, I've been fighting my own personal struggle about writing a book for a very long
Oh,
time, and it's been pressured to do it. So there's a book in the making, uh, but not as of yet.
so,
Mm.
is it going to be a book of poetry or is it going to be a book of inspiration?
It's going to be a book of wisdom, brother. Because I've learned so much in life, and there will be poetry excerpts in the book because a lot of my poetry come from my experiences, and what I think I'm going to do is write the poetry and then write the story that accompanies it, and then write the lesson with it, to kind of go into it because there's just so many. different lessons that I've learned. And I always throw these phrases out and these statements that my mom be like, well, wait a minute, hold on, say that again. I need to write this down. She's getting my book prepared for me. So yeah, it's gonna be and my testimony will be an inspiration, is what I believe. Um, but it's gonna be a book of wisdom, and how they take it is how they take it.
Thank you so much again for being part of my show. I truly appreciate you, brother. Like I said, great things going to happen to the both of us in 2025. This is just the beginning.
Yes,
This
sir.
is going to lay the foundation of what's next for us, both of us. So stay tuned. It's gonna be a ride for both of us.
Hey man, I'm here for it, and I got seatbelt, so I'm safe. I'm on it. I'm here for it, brother. Thank you so much for the opportunity once again, man. I really
All
appreciate
all right, brother. Thank you.
you. Have a
Peace.
good one.
Yeah.